So we've been having a conversation about, say again, misinformation, disinformation,
Malinformation.
malinformation.
Yes.
What is malinformation?
Well, if I think of mal and what it means in another language, it means bad, right? So bad or wrong information is what malinformation is. Disinformation is, I don't even know now. I want to use them interchangeably, but I guess you can't really at all times, right? Mis and dis, where are we?
Misinformation, disinformation.
Malinformation.
One is deliberate, right? Disinformation is deliberate. Misinformation could be
A mistake.
Could be a mistake.
Unintended.
Unintended,
for example.
right? And you get the information spread in the wrong way. And then you said malinformation is when you have insufficient information.
Oh no, it's just that your intel is bad. Your information is bad.
You've bad information.
Yes.
It's like malnutrition.
Bad nutrition.
Yeah, bad nutrition. Okay. Let's bring in somebody who understands these terms much better than we do. Alphonce Shiundu is the Kenya editor for Africa Check. Alphonce, good morning.
Good morning, Latif.
Good to have you in the show. We've had you on the show, but have you been here?
I've been in this studio, I think, 3 times.
Yes.
Yes.
Eric, where's your memory?
Come on.
Even I remember.
It's malinformed.
Malmemorized. How you doing, Alphonse?
Very, very fine. Very
Right.
fine. Thank you very much.
So let's just start off with those. Mal, miss, dis.
You and do are right on the first 2. So disinformation, deliberate.
Misinformation.
When you put out information with deliberate intent to mislead, that is disinformation. Misinformation is when you ignorantly share information because you do not know that you do not know what is correct. And malinformation now, that is where we have a problem. That's where I'm marking you guys wrong. That's malinformation is when correct information, like authentic information, is taken and put out in a different context. So here we could talk about things like leaks. When somebody takes nudes and leaks them out, or they take official government documents and put them out in a different context.
In a different context.
So when they put it out, it was not intended. Like classified content is not intended for public consumption. So when it hits the public, it's likely to be misinterpreted. It's likely to be to misinform. Let me put it that way.
So Julian Assange, that is malinformation.
That is malinformation.
But the original information is solid.
It's solid. It's authentic.
Okay.
Yes, but it's just going out in a different
It wasn't meant to come out.
Yes.
when
If you
it
remember in 2017, election-related malinformation, in 2017 there was this leak that was given to NASA. And NASA were reading a press conference about KDF planning to rig elections, if you remember. And
It was a leak.
It was a leak of authentic information. So that's the kind of thing that was leaked to NASA. And when NASA was interpreting it, it was in a very it was looking at it as rigging. Whereas when you speak to the people who were involved in creating the content, it was an internal document for their own
Consumption
management,
and preparation.
yes, of the elections.
So, for example, if we see now presidential candidate William Ruto coming out to say about 1 million voters have disappeared from the register and we don't know where they've gone to. So, and then the IEBC chairperson comes and says, yeah, well, there's something we're dealing with. He hasn't said it's 1 million, but he says there's something we're dealing with and we are also investigating some people. Would you say that probably that is the Ruto campaign having access to information, but then bringing it out and using it in another way that may not have been what was in the official domain?
So for this one, we will look at the facts as per the IEBC. So we will not, because what we try to do is just to focus on the claim that we have. If you look at what the IEBC said, they were looking at the audit from KPMG. And that audit showed how many voters had died, how many were double registration, how many were there were so many like categories. If you put them together, it was coming to about 1 million votes, 1 million voters that were problematic, if I could call it that. So for politicians, and politicians always want to recruit and convert supporters. So however they present the information, they will use the facts, they will to push a misleading narrative often. So that now here you're not having a debate about what exactly did the IBC say, or what did the IBC find out, what did the audit reveal. So you end up with that conversation where we do not know what the facts are, because the IBC is telling you, okay, these are the facts around the audit, but the politician is saying those are our votes, that
So
this is the language.
Is that malinformation or not?
It's not malinformation.
Is it disinformation?
It's not. It could be misinformation, because he's not. He has his information. The IEBC has the content. Yes, but we cannot ascribe intent on Ruto. I cannot do that.
And what about when the information you have, because look, whether it's opinionated, it's still information. So what about the information you have that you then pass on to the next person is then influenced by opinion? And I say that because here you are saying, because you are in a particular position, that you feel as though there are those who are maybe in opposition to you, then maybe putting things out there. That's information you have because of how you feel. How do you categorize that? Because then we find that then there would be requisite action because of this kind of information that you have.
Yes. So I would call, like, I would just categorize that as an informed opinion.
Okay.
Because that's it's something, you know, like if I go to a Dr. CT here, and I say, CT, I'm feeling, I have a fever, I'm feeling fatigued, and I have been coughing the whole night.
Oh, that one is easy to diagnose.
Yes.
It means you're broke.
So yeah, so he will say something like that.
Yes.
Now this is CT. He's probably not a medical doctor.
Yes.
But a medical doctor would tell me I either have flu or I have COVID.
Right.
Now they're making an informed opinion based on the facts that I have given them. But before they prove or establish that I have COVID or whatever, then they would now tell me to go and take a test. And that's what they will be testing. So from that point on, they're using the information they have, prior knowledge about something they know. And then they are putting it out and saying, okay, from my understanding, from my knowledge, from my years of experience, I think this is it, or I feel this is it. I'm not sure if I'm...
Sure, but let me give
Yes.
you a direct example, because then is that a situation that could lead to then disinformation? And because you say because of a historic event, for example, we know that previously during the campaign season or during elections or whatever, stones were thrown. That's something that happens as a result of, you know, dissatisfaction with a particular result, right? Unfortunately, has been attributed to certain people over time. On Sunday, we saw an event whereby a particular rally was not allowed to happen because of 1, 2, 3. Yesterday, we then heard someone else say there were raining stones in Jacaranda, right? Now, we don't know if the stones were raining, but it would be very easy for anybody who was listening to pick up on that and say, well, look, it's happened before because people have thrown stones. So people are now passing out this information and saying this could not happen because stones were raining. May not necessarily be true, but based on a historic event, somebody's taking that information, adding their opinion, and passing out this particular information. What scenario do we have there?
Wow, I would put it under the broader term propaganda. So propaganda, it's strictly, you can't categorize it as this, but it has elements of all those. So people are taking like little factoids, like the rally that you've mentioned, and building a narrative, often misleading narrative, that then they put out. So, for example, stones were thrown. Stones have been thrown before
Yes.
in a particular rally or in a particular region. Now, if they are telling that story, it is an easier story, or it's an easier sell to say that, oh, it is because of this person that these stones get thrown. And they weave very little factoids in a manner that it tells a very misleading story. Now, for us as fact checkers at Africa Check and fact checkers at Fumbua, it becomes really hard to debunk a whole misleading narrative, because somebody will say, okay, you guys say you check facts.
Right.
Okay, the facts that we have put on the table is stones were thrown. The facts that we have put on the table is that they were thrown in this rally.
Yes.
The facts that we have put on the table is that every time stones are thrown, X and Y are involved.
Yes. Yep.
So when you go that route, it becomes very difficult to tell that person this narrative is misleading. But for them, they know why they are putting that information out.
So is it disinformation?
It's potentially disinformation, but they just want to pollute the electoral information ecosystem to an extent that every unsophisticated voter would be like, yeah, it's correct. Like, look, these guys have their facts correct. But it's the same way how people lie with statistics. So they take like a number, give a story. The conclusion is misleading, but their basis is factual.
Sure.
So you end up with the very polluted and sometimes polarized,
Dangerous even?
dangerous even information environment during elections. Yes.
Isn't that the nature of the game, though? I mean, this is politics. You want to create a narrative that appeals to your base and also that recruits new members to that core. So you are going to play with information left, right, and center just to drive your agenda. That's the game, isn't it?
Yes, that's the game, and it's an old game. The only way where we are with the growth of social media and digital media in Kenya, we have, if you talk to politicians and their digital media teams, what they will tell you is that they do three things. The first thing they use social media for is that they do something we call social listening. So in social listening, what they are doing is they are monitoring conversations online and figuring out how they can input their message in those conversations. Sometimes they do what we call astroturfing, where they create fake conversations online. They manufacture conversations, they manufacture discussions, and they push this online. You might have seen them like this morning on the trending topics on Twitter, where they do what we call trend jacking. They they rig the Twitter algorithm in a way so that things that are not authentically trending come on top. The second thing they do is in the conversion and recruitment. So they are putting out WhatsApp groups. They are creating WhatsApp groups. They are creating Facebook groups. They are creating groups on lists on Twitter, which they then put out information. They create broadcasts on WhatsApp where they send out the same kind of information to people, and these people circulate. The last thing is in the messaging. They know social media is out there. A lot of people are on it. According to the census said about 9.9 million Kenyans have access to the internet. Now, when you're looking at that kind of number, it's and about 50% of those are under 35. So you're looking at that kind of number, and you're saying politicians are looking at a very fertile voter hunting ground. So what will they do? These guys, they know, okay, what can we do here? We are going to put false information on this ground. We are going to do that so that we recruit guys to vote for us. So it's just the nature of the game, and that is the point where, as fact checkers, we understand what the platforms are doing, we understand how the platforms operate, and so we come in with interventions where we're saying, okay, this is the nature of the game. this is the political season, this is what they are going to do, how can we stop them from doing this? Even if they do and we cannot like stop them, how do we reduce the circulation of that kind of false content? So we intervene through fact-checking, we intervene through media literacy clinics where we are training people with using open source intelligence tools, where you can fact-check for yourself. If somebody sends a picture with a very big crowd in a very small space, you can actually do a crowd estimation using open source intelligence tools. So those are the kinds of conversations that we are having in the spaces that we are, and using the Fumbua Collaborative Journalism Project, where we have influencers, we have journalists in the mainstream media, we have editors, we have like a whole group of people who are putting out this message that, hey guys, there's false information, but it needs to be checked, and this is how you do it.
Alphonce, how do you race against time? Because unfortunately, with this technology, this is something that can happen now, and in 3 minutes, it's everywhere. How do you deal with that? Whether you have a whole team of people, and unfortunately, the element of damage has already been done. That by the time you're doing something about it, it's already found its nesting ground. How do you then deal with that? How do you then deal with the time issue?
Okay, the people who create these merchants of false information, they know they will be found out.
Yeah.
What they are counting on is that by the time we find out, they would have done that damage.
Yes.
And what now we realize is that because they know they'll be found out, we say that ukweli unadumu. So the truth endures. So you put out your fake information, we will put out the facts. And we have these partnerships with platforms, for example, with Facebook. So it's a very fertile playground where a lot of misinformation happens, and it has the largest numbers of users in Kenya, Facebook and WhatsApp. So if they put out information and we rate it on Facebook as false or as missing context or as misleading, everyone who saw that bit of misinformation is alerted that what you saw was false, and here it's something that you can read. We are counting on people to use their common sense to read, to enjoy the facts. And unfortunately, as the great Obama said, facts sometimes do not win elections, emotions do. So you have to present people with the facts, but present them with an emotional connection where they look at the facts and they are like, okay, we understand why this is important.
How, Alphonce, please give us an example of how you would prevent the facts then with that emotive angle to get people to think, okay, maybe the thing that I heard the first time is not necessarily the truth.
Okay, there is a sophistication. Right now we are reeling from the ghosts of Cambridge Analytica. Now I'll give you an example from what we saw the past 2 weeks. So Chebukati calls a press conference. He has a press conference about something else at the Bomas. As soon as the press conference ends, a screenshot emerges, and the chyron, the lower third at the bottom, says Sakaja hajaitimu, hana degree. And we are looking at that, we start debunking that. By the time we are done debunking that screenshot, that it's not an authentic broadcast from Citizen TV, we are hit with a press release that Safaricom has we are hit with the press release now from University of Nairobi, like that Sakaja was not their student, that the degree is inauthentic. We are checking that. We are hit with a letter from DCI to the University of Nairobi that the degree is fake. So what you're getting all this avalanche. Now, when you sit back and you say, okay, what are these people trying to do?
Yeah,
what's all this? What's all this? They are looking at the qualifications of a person. Does he have a degree or not? Is it something easy to prove? We thought it was easy to prove whether you have a degree or not. Unfortunately, it's something that we realize you have to go to court.
Even the commission doesn't know.
Even the commission does not know. And we do not have the capacity to like authenticate whether somebody went to school or not. So that is the kind of environment.
Sorry, you can't authenticate if someone went to school or not.
Well, what we have seen.
From what we have seen.
From what we've been treated to.
Yes.
It is not.
Nobody really knows.
It's
And
not
nobody can prove
straightforward.
it otherwise.
So is that
Anyway,
then-
let's go back to the
Yes.
to what was happening
Example, yeah.
in those 2 weeks.
So we're going to this example. So you've been hit by all that. Now you sit back and you say, okay, the conversation that is important here is to let people know that for you to have a degree, this is the procedures. The conversation that is important to know is that there's a university. This person attended this university and this university. Do the universities confirm? And if the universities confirm, who else can corroborate what the universities confirm? And that is how, now with that example, we end up with this cloud of uncertainty. And that is the exact reason why these people were putting out that misinformation. They want to sow doubt in the public to an extent that you do not know what is true and what is not.
So it's a proper
Yes.
game.
It's a proper game.
It's not a tries-X.
No.
It's actually a strategy being deployed.
Yes.
And it had been properly timed, and we knew this is when we're going to start it, and this is how we're going to follow it through.
Yes.
And by the time the fact checkers such as Alphonce Shiundu are starting to think of how to counter us, we're already unleashing more and more information. By the time Alphonce Shiundu comes up with this information, somebody has actually even gone to the IEBC itself to protest. So there's some authenticity here. I mean, there are people who have gone to the IEBC to contest the nomination of this particular candidate.
And it's not just with this degree. I was to give you
With this particular example,
with
right?
this particular example. The sophistication is also in the Safaricom thing. If you remember, Gachagua has an interview like this one with a radio station for
Yes.
2 hours. A clip which is 11 seconds long emerges, and it says he's gonna kill Safaricom. He speaks in Kikuyu. The clip is translated in English. Latif speaks Kikuyu. He would know that the translation was misleading. Yeah? It goes out. We fact check. We say the translation is misleading. This is the context. And we even play the longer clip where we point people to the longer clip where even the interviewer, the original interviewer, saw that and asked a follow-up question on what exactly do you mean by this? We finished the fact checking. We are hit with a press release from Safaricom. We look at the press release. The press release is condemning Gachagua. It's criticizing him for putting out those statements. We check the press release. We find it is fake. As soon as we put out the press release, it's fake. The denunciation from Safaricom that the press release is fake is also termed as fake. Now you end up in a situation where we have to educate people that sometimes you're going to see all these things that appear coordinated. You would depend on us as fact checkers to tell you guys, this is the facts around this issue. You'll depend on journalists to reveal the facts around the issue. But what they will do, they will give you the facts, but it will not stop the people who are putting out this false information from continuing the weaving of misleading narratives. It will not. They will do because this is what they are paid to do. This is what they are pursuing power. So if they are going to do political smearing, they are going to do it. If they are going to do the rigging of algorithms, pollution of the information environment, they are going to do it. So what do you do as an ordinary citizen, as a voter, as a registered voter? It's just to be smart online. There are things that you can do. You see a front page of the Standard, for example, that says something, or a front page of the Nation, or a front page of the Star that says something. Just go to the Standard website, look at the e-paper. Is that the correct front page of that day? Look at the socials of this. Is that the correct front page? Because the front pages will come, audio notes will come, fabricated group chats of senior people will be created. These are things that we have seen over the last 6 months, and they are intensifying as we get into the election period. So the job is just to tell guys, be smart online, be very vigilant.
It's a difficult job. You're not even talking about consuming information. We're talking about now how to
Good Lord.
start understanding
are we
information.
going to a break?
Let's take a break. It's 27 minutes to 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Alphonce Shiundu is the Kenya editor at Africa Check. Africa Check is one of the organizations that have come together to form Fumbua. And Alphonce is also the vice chair of the Fumbua board.
Yes.
Big man here. We are talking about misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, especially during this time when the campaigns are at fever pitch. How do you tell what's right, what's wrong?
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
With Alphonce Shiundu, who is the vice chair of the Fumbua board and the Kenya editor at Africa Check. CT.
You know, when I first came across the term, the information age, I had not fully grasped what it meant. Then we got into the 21st century and it became apparent what it actually was. There is so much information at any given time. It's readily available. Anyone can access it, including children. Now, with so much information, the thing that I have noticed seems to happen is there's information that caters for every niche inclination. If I like violence, there'll be information that caters to that particular leaning that I have. If I'm inclined towards romance, whatever my inclination, if it's about my belief, whatever it is, I will find it. So when we talk about information in our sphere, even this information that is considered false, there are people who you will not dissuade because it falls into the general ambit of what they believe to be true. It may be absolutely false, but that's what they're inclined towards believing. Now, this brings me to ask this question. The Official Secrets Act. Countries have it. What role does it play in all this?
So, so the Official Secrets Act, what it does, I would like just take you a little back, so that
as far back
as I can.
Yes.
So we are looking at the Official Secrets Act. What it does is it determines what information can be public, and how it can be classified, and what you can put out and what you cannot as a civil servant, okay, or as a public official. Now, when you look
Only public officials.
For public officials, like for public officials. So because there is an oath at the end of that act which they swear to do confidentiality, to conduct information confidentially. Right. Now, when you come to this other side, now the side where we are, the side of transparency, the side of where people are looking for want information out, in 2015, Parliament debated and passed the Access to Information Act 2016. So that act, what it does, it gives the procedures on how we can access information held by the state. So anyone can ask the government for information, and the government is obligated to give that information. The law provides steps in which you can do that, but it also gives the government excuses or reasons to stop from giving you that information. National security is one of those that are the major reasons of why that information should not come out. Where does that leave us? The process for access to information works, but it's very, it does not guarantee transparency of the information that you're looking for. Sometimes you would ask for information, the government agency would say, I will give you this information, but not this part, not this part.
Heavily
not this
redacted.
Part. Yes. And you end up with not knowing what the facts are. So there's that opacity. And for my conclusion, if we are going to say the Official Secrets Act is hampering the transparency, that is something that is can be backed by verifiable evidence. The other thing we have to know is that democracy itself dies in that kind of darkness. So we have to be in a space where we can access that information. If we cannot access it from government, then we have to find another place where we can get the same information. What you may not know, or what most people do not know, is that the government of Kenya reports to the IMF and to the UN agencies much more than it reports to its own citizens. So when you look at the databases held by the World Bank, by the IMF, by the UN, you find information about Kenya that you would never find on any government portal in Kenya. And that information is legit. Some of them are reports from the National Treasury, for example, that are sent there. And these reports would have details of, say, the government taking over payments of debt of a company like the KQ. Mm-hmm. And then it's put out closer to the new year when people are celebrating. Mm. So by the time guys come out to realize, oh, this is what we have reported, by the time MPs are complaining in parliament that, hey, we cannot pay these guys this much money, it's a lot of money, that is, the deal is already done. They cannot, if they try to undo it, it brings down the whole house. Mm. So that's the kind of, it's just about being vigilant. And I thank the journalists of the country who do this, like follow those spaces and put this information out, because it really, really helps people to understand. Yes, we all have access to the internet. Yes, we all can access all those spaces if we wanted, but some of us do not know how to use the open source intelligence tools to get all this data. But all these tools are available to anyone with an internet connection. So that is part of what Fumbua has been doing, training people on this is where you can get this data.
Right.
This is where you can access this information. Your government might not give it to you, but it gave it to somebody else. Go to that somebody else. That person will give you that information. The WHO will give you the information. You just have to ask them. They will send it to you.
Isn't it, however, though, that this information is created because there's also the realization that there are many people who have an affinity for scandal or affinity for hearing these kind of, crazy things. So how then do you say fact check over something that you kind of have a natural desire to want to hear and ingest or consume in terms of information? How do you say, okay, well, we know that you like the scandal, and human beings naturally want something that's, kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. Especially now we're going into in the throes of this election season, and it's stuff that comes at you. I mean, look at what happened over the last 1 week. Everybody was not really thinking about what is important. We're all thinking about who has a degree or not, right? And it's scandal. It's nice. You want to be enthralled in all of that. How then do you say, go and make sure you have the facts over something that you're actually enjoying being, an audience to?
What we usually say is if a fact checker is at a Christmas party and like City allow me to use you.
Please.
So we are at Christmas party, we are talking and we're saying...
This is for the public good.
Yes.
Carry on.
You be the man for the
job. In fact, embellish the story as you see fit.
Yes. And we are saying something, and then City walks in and says, I have a PhD in exactly what you're talking about. And you guys are off. You are wrong. What will you call him?
The expert.
No.
Party pooper.
Yes, we will ignore, because we are enjoying the conversation. We are enjoying that. So that is where that is where we are coming in as fact checkers, because we step in and we say, okay, I'll use the president because he's leaving anyway. So the president he goes out and he says, over the last 10 years, I have built 10,000 kilometers of roads. Mm-hmm. And you're a Kenyan, you're a media house, you listen to that and you decide, okay, the president has built 10,000 kilometers of road of 10 years. You leave Uhuru Gardens as you're driving through, going to Kangemi, you pass through James Gishuru and you see a big billboard, Asante Rais Kenyatta. Kujenga barabara, or something like that. And in your mind, you're like, this person has actually
really
done
worked.
it.
Validation,
Yes.
what you just said, yeah.
Until you get back and sit and look at the records. And you check the records, you will see that when he addressed Parliament in 2016, the good president said he had built 3,000 kilometers of roads. When he came, the last State of the Nation address in 2017 before the election, he said he built 1,950 kilometers of roads.
1,000?
950.
So from 3,000, it got to 1,000.
It went to 1,900.
Yes.
And then, days after he speaks, his finance minister, the man who gave the money, comes and says it's 1,950. He writes in the Jubilee Manifesto that he has built 1,950 in his
Kilometers of road.
kilometers of roads in his first term. Yes. Then you listen to his State of the Nation in 2020, 2021. What do you hear? He says he has built 1,000 kilometers of roads every year. And now he says he's built 10,000
10,000
kilometers. Look at the data, because we love data. We try to find the data, and then we find that it is terrible. The data that is coming from the Kenya Roads Board, you look at that data that they present to the Treasury. By the end of 2017, they put out a report, the economic survey, that said they had done 9,000 kilometers of roads.
It's even better.
Right now, they are showing that they have done 11,000 kilometers. And the president says he has built
1,000 a year.
1,000 a year.
Yes.
Because when you're looking at that data, it is so bad. You can never tell if you follow the money, because we try all angles. Follow the money, follow steel and cement importation into the country and consumption. And then you just find a discrepancy, for example. When the data is showing that the road constructed increased, the money spent went down. So how is that? How does that happen? Is it like new technology of building cheaper roads, where at a time when you're building an expressway? Those are things, and we get to talk to engineers, and we ask engineers, okay, we are hitting a rock here. And this is where now I have to bring in the Access to Information Act. We file an Access to Information request with the Ministry of Transport. Those guys respond. And they say, "What can you give us a breakdown of the kind of information you want?" And we give a breakdown of every detail of information we want. So a geolocation of the road, where it was constructed, when it started, when it ended, such details, who the contractor was, and the length. They go mute. We report them to the office of the ombudsman. We need this data because that's what the law says, report them. The ombudsman asks them. They say, "Oh, we have received a letter from the ombudsman. Do you still need the information?" We say, "Yes." That information is with the transport engineer. We go to the transport engineer. We have a chat, and he says, "I'm going to send you the information." It's not written in letter. It's not like you ask for the letter. He says, "What do you want? An information or a letter acknowledging that I am promising to give you the information?" And so you end up, this takes so long, and they know we do not have a budget to take them to court. So they will just sit back. And to date, we keep on requesting that information. They keep on looking at it, and it's that we are ending up not acknowledging.
So you have nothing with which to say this information is incorrect.
We have nothing with which to say this information is incorrect, but we have everything to say that this information is wrong. The data is so bad, you cannot actually say that. It's very incoherent. It cannot, even if you bring the president here and ask him to give a detail of the roads, you will end up with a situation where we ended up with the portal, where the portal would say, "We built this road, it's 10 kilometers. The people on the ground are calling you and saying, "Look, which road? These are the pictures right now." So that is the kind of place where we are, and it's this transparency, data transparency. It's very important. Why would data about roads be so difficult to release? Like, it's stuff that people use. If you have actually built, why is it so hard to put it out? Those are the things that we want people to ask.
Because actually, ordinarily,
Yes.
if indeed you had built the roads, it should be your joy
To put it
to
out.
tell people and say, "Folks,
In your easy app.
there he is.
Yes.
Here we are."
But those billboards that Alphonse is talking about are showing the roads.
The billboards
It's
are
just that
all.
now we'll not have billboards of 11,000 kilometers,
Actually,
surely.
I have a problem with these billboards. I have a problem with the billboards because why are you insisting that we should thank the president for doing what he was supposed to do anyway? Why? And what are we thanking him for exactly? Because if you look at the promises that his party made, the manifesto they had, the thank you would be, thank you, you people fulfilled your promises. A few kinks here and there, but by and large, excellent job. There are wonderful things that has been done under the president's watch, yes. But that's the nature of the job. That's what he's supposed to do.
It's acknowledging, CT.
No.
There's nothing wrong with acknowledgement.
No.
So if I could just jump in at this point.
Please
Yes.
come in.
When we are doing like towards the election in the countries that Africa Check operates in, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, and in Kenya, we have something we call a promise tracker. And a promise tracker is what fact checkers do. So if somebody makes a promise at what's in their manifesto, we note it down and we track it across the years. So if they say they are going to build 24,000 kilometers, the way Jubilee administration said, then we check to find out if that is indeed what they built. If they say something like they are going to put this number of people under medical insurance, we check to find out what there is. So it is a very good way, and it will be very helpful if an administration acknowledges that, hey, this is what we have done. This is the evidence of our performance. Why is it good? Because the next administration gets to a place where it can make laws and policies based on an existing reality. So they know what the situation on the ground is, and then they can start planning and budgeting and policy making from that point. When you look at the manifestos that were put out, for example, the manifestos would say we have this number of roads, and we want to build, 5,000 megawatts of power?
Yep.
Yes. They are making a promise. They are making
It's a statement of intent.
a statement of intent, but it's not based, like the premise is wrong. You do not understand what's the situation, what's the energy demand. Why are you making, if you say 5,000 megawatts, where is it going to be used?
Break it down so that we understand what it's supposed to do and how it's supposed to help the economy.
Exactly.
In fact, I am of the view that those posters should exist, those billboards should exist, but it should be the president thanking the people of Kenya
For allowing
being,
him to do the job.
yes, for being long-suffering, for being a good citizenry who don't bother you too much, a citizenry who put up with a great deal. There are things to thank the president for. Specifically.
CT,
Just to
you're
look
a
at this
teacher,
really quickly.
Buana.
Based
You
on-
always
on-
reward a child.
These things that you talked about, Alphonse, now
Yeah.
to say that when you see a billboard like that, and then you know that the information that you've been getting from the relevant authorities has been dodgy at best, is that poster or is that billboard then misinformation?
The billboard is, because I think he knows. I think at that point, you know what you have done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're probably putting out just the misleading stuff.
So it's disinformation.
So we would
people,
fact check you and say this is the stuff that you have done. This is actually what you have done. So whether people should be thanking you or not, we will not get into that space because it's a very contentious space, as CT has shown. But this is an election season.
Yes.
Governors at all levels, governors, presidents, they are going to be in a place where they are exaggerating their achievements while in office.
Yes.
So what do people need to do? That's the point where you come in and you ask, okay, you're saying you built 10 cattle dips. Where are they?
Again,
You're saying you employed 3,000 people in the county or 3,000 people in government. Where are they? And what? It's not just enough for us to wait and watch the numbers.
Yeah.
The other thing that mainstream media should also have to worry is that the sophistication of political campaigns is such that they target mainstream media deliberately. And I'll give you an example. As I wind up, just indulge me, Latif. You find a website is up with the name of a presidential candidate as an alumni of Late Speed University. Mainstream media run with it as if it's factual. This gentleman has written books. Books have been written about him. At no time in his life history does he say
He went to Leipzig University.
he did his graduate studies at Leipzig. But the mainstream media do that. So the point that I'm trying to push is, even if you know that, oh, this thing has been put out and is next to this, all these things, please try and verify.
Okay.
Because you would not, it's just not good not to put out unverified information, because you end up misleading and disinforming public.
Alphonse, thank you for joining us. Come again next week, Tuesday. We'll have the same conversation.